Welcome back, everyone. My name is Emily Gear. I'm a multi-dimensional channel and a transformative energy healer. And I'm back with your Twin Flame or Soul Connections tarot reading and channeling for this week, which is April, the week beginning. I'm beginning at April 25th, which is a Saturday. So roughly the next 7 days in advance. Unless you see this video at another time, then it is valid for you at the time that you find it, okay? So you'll notice I did call it a twin flame reading today. Just to clarify, I determined that two things are going on with me. One is that I was having a sort of egoic response to the term twin flame. And the other thing that was going on is that I have been told many, many, many times in my channeling that we are to steer away from labels. And that just because we as human beings will often use labels to define separate groups, and therefore we pull ourselves farther and farther away from unity consciousness, which is the point of being a quote twin flame in the first place. So, and that is unity consciousness. Okay, just to clarify, anybody who may be new to this. So I felt that, I was pushing against it because of my reaction to and triggering by some individuals who call themselves this or do readings surrounding this, and the readings seem to cater to something that is, shall we say, maybe less, how do I say this right? Less high vibrational than the unity consciousness. And so I found myself pushing back against it. It also is, a human communicative tool to use language, and therefore is almost always lacking in its ability to truly convey what we want to say. So because for whatever reason, I came into this world wanting to be extremely precise with my words, I pushed back against it. So I'm going to begin using it again so that people understand what I am talking about, because that is the most important thing. But I do want to clarify that we should not be separating ourselves from other people, seeing ourselves in a different light than other souls, putting ourselves in any other category than other souls, that we really truly are, even beyond your quote unquote twin, all one. Okay, and therefore all mirrors of each other. And that is the most important message that my guides continually want to get across to me, and that I try to bring across to you. Okay, so that was a very long explanation for something super simple. But in case you guys are like, why is she so inconsistent? This is why. Because I'm acknowledging the very human part of me that was pushing against that, but also bringing back in the message that I continue to get regarding that situation. Okay, so all that said, we are doing a twin flame / soul connection / divine compliments reading today. Oops, forgot to silence my phone. Quickly before that, as always, this is my website. If you find that you would like your own personal reading with me over Zoom or over the phone. And also you can find other reading options on my website. Actually, I have a couple people waiting on readings now, and I'm literally writing a note to make sure I email them today. Okay. Awkward. All right, guys. So we're going to get going with the reading now. Thank you so much for your patience in me making various announcements, but needs to be done, folks. Needs to be done. So we're going to start with looking at what is affecting the twins in general, or the partners in general overall at this time. I'm going to go ahead and use the Aquarian Tarot for that. The specific question is, what is the overall energy affecting the twins or the partners at this time? Okay. What is the overall energy affecting the twins or partners at this time? 10 of Rods. What is the overall energy affecting the twins or the partners at this time? Page of Swords, Two of Cups. I feel like I want to get one more. What is the overall energy affecting the twins or the partners at this time? The Hanged Man. So we have the Ten of Rods with the Page of Swords. And we have the Two of Cups with the Hanged Man. I'm actually getting this at this moment. So this feels to me like an energy that is more based in the mind than the spirit. Okay, so there are different levels to our consciousness, as you know, and one of them is a mental level, and even within the mental level there are different levels. At least that's what I've been shown. This feels like one that is very close to the ego, but I do feel that it is outside of the ego to an extent. I feel like this is the part of you that can differentiate, can discern ego from truth to an extent. Okay. I don't know if there's a name for that. I just don't know. That's kind of how they're showing it to me. And what I'm actually feeling here is a little bit of frustration would be one word. Another word would be exhaustion with the challenge of the situations that have been coming up recently. And yet there is this sense of understanding that there is a set of, I almost want to say a set of challenges that is necessary to go through to properly mold you into being the highest version of yourself. And that this is all part of this coming together, this sort of mirroring and not even mirroring, but like balancing between the two, but also within yourself. So you may feel like you are running the gauntlet right now, so to speak, and that would be accurate. Ten of Rods, the Page of Swords. There's a sense here of really feeling tired of it. But this to me feels like the higher sense saying, okay, but I know what this is about. I'm releasing this sense of frustration because I know that is a very human part of me. It's okay to feel this way, but I also know that there's something else going on, that there's a higher purpose here. My excuses for, or my apologies for the very mundane words I'm using to describe the things that feel very big, okay? If I go into my feelings, these are very big energies, but I can only use so many words to describe them. So I want to say here, there's almost a sense of a martyr energy, and not in the negative sense, but in the sense that there is something that you are sacrificing yourself for that is bigger than you. And that sacrifice is not really sacrificing yourself. It's sacrificing the parts of yourself that are not really you, and going through that process of sacrifice. And you may feel ill-equipped for it. You might not even feel good enough for it. Some of your partners might not feel good enough for it. Like they somehow are like, how did I end up here? I don't even know if I can get through this. That's kind of the energy I'm getting. And yet there is this realization on some level, whether it's conscious or not, that this is what is necessary to bring about the higher perspective, the new perspective, the new world order in a non-weird conspiratorial way. in a non, I don't know. You know what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah, I also just pulled out of the archetype cards, I just pulled out companion and damsel here. And so I think there is this sense of feeling really overwhelmed and tired of this process because it is challenging and difficult if we tell ourselves it is, if we are going to accept that definition of it, and that this damsel energy can sometimes be the energy of just wanting somebody to come in and save us, right? Somebody just to come in and make everything okay and just end the trials. And yet what this is really saying here is that we realize that we need to go through it. We need to go through the quote unquote gauntlet, whatever that is. I don't want to talk about it in a negative sense, like a gauntlet would be sort of a negative challenge, like a difficult challenge. It doesn't have to be like that, but it is always on some level, and it depends on how high we're able to raise our consciousness above the very 3D and mundane way of perceiving it as a challenge, as a burden, as, you know, something that's difficult and painful. And yet we do this, we go through this because of the companionship element. There's another piece to this so this says the light attribute is loyalty, tenacity, unselfishness, which is exactly, you know, much of what we're looking for as twin flames, although that is primarily all about unity, consciousness, and unconditional love. But the shadow attribute here is betrayal by misusing confidences, loss of personal identity. And that loss of personal identity part is something that's so important right now, because what I'm actually getting from this is that we do identify with things that are not truly us. And part of the challenge here has been releasing those things that we are not actually, that we have pulled into our identities because of a million different things, because of trauma, because of pain, because of fear, because out of fear, we're trying to manifest a certain situation, and because it came through the fear center, it came through the pain body, is not actually representative of our highest potential. I talked about this a little bit in the other reading. And part of me wants to clarify this on an egoic level, that I'm not saying you cannot, you don't want to visualize what you want, but you kind of want to do that from the feeling place, and you want to do it from a place of unconditional love, so that is the energy that you're feeling. If it's coming from anywhere of fear or wanting to compete or outdo or any of those like kind of egoic energies, you're sort of like shifting yourself off, you're veering off center. And it's all part of the plan. So if you are, it's totally fine. But this is me like helping to coach you back to center if you catch yourself doing that, okay? We all do it. We're humans. This is what happens. And it's all part of getting to that center place. Okay, so all that said, there is this push toward true identity. There's this understanding that we have the power. We in and of ourselves are powerful, and that we are creating permanent positive change in our lives, even though it can feel very exhausting. And yet we can change the way that we interact with that feeling. We can pull ourselves above that and make the choice not to feel or not to perceive it in such an overwhelming, overburdening way, okay? All right. So now we're going to move on to the Divine Masculine. I'm going to use the Bianco e Nero deck, the black and white deck, which I love, for the Divine Masculine. And, oh, here we go. Queen of Cups. How is the Divine Masculine feeling? I don't even think I got to reverse any of these. All right. Reversals one more time. how is the divine masculine feeling? So we have Queen of Cups. That's a deeper connection to the internal feminine side, I feel. In this case, a deeper desire to care for the self, to look out for one's own needs. Next is the Four of Cups. Yeah, because whatever they were doing wasn't like really serving them. It wasn't I get this sense of on some level, they're realizing where they have potentially focused too much outside of themselves, and it did not feel the way that they thought it would. It wasn't achieving for them what they wanted. Now we have the Sun in reverse and the Three of Pentacles in reverse. Yeah, they weren't feeling happy. They weren't feeling like they were growing, or they weren't feeling like they were, the word achievement came up for whatever reasons. They weren't feeling like they were achieving. And I do associate the word achievement with the Three of Pentacles. I think that there's this sense of being stunted as a human being, kind of, but, oh, and the Tower, oh my goodness. So I just looked down and here's the Tower staring right back at me. So they may be having some huge realizations right now. Some difficult things may be going on in their lives at this moment. What it feels like is whatever it is driving them back to their center to ask themselves what fulfills them, what makes them feel whole. And I almost get the sense that some of them don't know what feeling whole feels like, first of all, or to even ask the question, what makes me feel whole? I think what I'm getting here is that they realize they do not feel well, either physically, emotionally, mentally, or on all of those levels. And there is this desire to take care of that, to make that change, to kind of nurture the self. And that's really positive, because often you'll see the masculine's energy going outward, because that's what the masculine does, right? That's why, that is why it balances the feminine, because her energy goes inwards. In reality, we all have both, so we can all go both inwards and outwards, but this is a real redirection of their energy at the moment, which is necessary for them to come into balance and to be what am I hearing? Really to repair the wounds of the past is what they're saying. That those wounds have them really far outside, that they have been giving all of this energy away to other individuals because that's how they learned that love was given to them, but they never truly learned how to receive it. And so that's what's happening right now. And it's just the realization of the difference between the way they have always felt, which is that lack of receiving, or maybe not a full lack of receiving. That doesn't mean that they have never received, but they're not receiving the abundance, at least those that this is sort of picking up on, the abundance of that unconditional love that is available in the universe. It's not coming in, or it hasn't been coming in, and they're now aware of this, and they're turning inward to be able to, I'm almost like prepare the space to be able to receive that this is part of that spiritual growth, and the growth that they have not sort of been having because of this blockage. This is a heart chakra blockage for most of them. It can also be a sacral or solar plexus chakra. They're actually showing me those three middle chakras for most of them. Some of them it's root chakra. If they never felt safe enough to ever open up, like physically safe enough to ever open up to receive, then it's a blockage there as well. But for most of them, it is those middle three, okay, the second, third, and fourth. This might be coming in like the Tower. This might be coming in like a wrecking ball for them. A realization that is challenging at best and tearing kind of their perception apart at worst. But the feeling at the root of it is this sense of self-love, or needing to, or acknowledgement of the need for self-love and nurturing. And so that's positive. I always do this. I went way into the next few questions while we were just talking about how is he feeling. So this is how he is feeling. Okay. All right. Next question is, how is the divine feminine feeling this week? We're going to use the Russian Victorian Romantic Tarot for her. How is the divine feminine feeling this week? Russian Victorian Romantic Tarot. Yes, that's what it's called. Okay. How is the divine feminine feeling this week? This one wanted to come. How is divine feminine feeling this week? So far we have the Five of Wands with the Lovers. I'm really getting the feeling of being up in the air, okay? Being up in the air about this connection on like sort of the 3D level. The Star. Oh, for F's sake. This is the Knight of Pentacles. It's been so long since other than the reading I did yesterday, it's been so long since I've used this deck that I forget what some of the words are. Okay, so Five of Wands with the Lovers. The Star with the Knight of Pentacles. There is this like sense of being up in the air about the connection on the physical plane, meaning that I think there is a drive, also for her, a drive inward toward healing and sort of raising oneself up into a higher dimensional place. I want to say this the way that this feels to me is that she likes what it feels like to not be worrying about this shit. And I shouldn't call it shit, but sometimes it feels like shit. In that she has been very successful, albeit step by step, kind of moving into that space where the baggage is dropped, it's cleared away, it's cleaned off, it's washed away, okay? Healing with the Star energy here as well. And so there are these lotuses in this card also. Lotuses bloom at night, and I really get this sense of pulling within, pulling into the dark, maybe a lot of subconscious type stuff being uprooted at this time, and it feels good as it releases because you're no longer getting embroiled in the battle that's very hard to understand because it's not taking place in the conscious mind. It's taking place in a subconscious place because we're talking again about past lives, we're talking about wounding, we're talking about patterning picked up from our parents or from society or whatever, all these things battling within. And what reflects that to us more keenly than anything else? This connection, right? So that in itself has been exhausting. And maybe that's why, on her part, that's why this Ten of Wands is showing up with the Page of Swords, because that's her exhaustion. She's tired of the internal struggle. She's tired of the back and forth, the pushing and pulling. For some of you, it might literally be fighting or arguing or something like that. That does not surface in my particular situation, but it does for sure in others. And there's an energetic push and pull for sure, but there is not like fighting. But I think pulling away from that sort of energetic struggle inside has felt very good. And what I want to say is that energetic struggle, even though it's indicative of an imbalance internally, that it's important to go through it, because that is the process by which, once you process that through, once you become consciously aware of it, bring light to it, and go through the healing process, that is what brings you into the balance, right? That's what pulls you out of it. So you can't get to the balance without the imbalance. I know that sounds weird because you're like, why would you want to if you were already balanced to begin with? But this is the process. This is just how it works. We all go from one to the other, and honestly back in and back out at different times in our lives. We never sort of become static. We are always growing and changing, expanding even, is what they just said. So I feel like this has been a long road for her, and she may be feeling somewhat tired, but she is also feeling relief, is something else that I'm getting. Not because there's rest, but because there is clarity and cleansing. I do also feel this sense of unconditional love here, that she's beginning to be able to be in that place regardless of the turmoil that may take place in the outside world. That her peace and stability is not contingent upon what is happening on the external. So that's really positive for her own internal balance, her own internal sense of calm, being able to maintain that calm in the storm. And I really just got the sense of being one's own hero here from this card, rescuing oneself. As if this were her own internal masculine and feminine. Not depending on anyone else, looking toward anyone else, needing anyone else to be something specific that she has conjured up, because that is never what that person actually is. That person is something completely their own. Can we learn to see people for who they are? Yes, of course. But generally, our first instinct is to project upon them. So, and the more we clear away the baggage, the hurts, the anxiety, the childhood wounding, the patterning, the more we're able to see people for who they are. So that may be happening for her more, and that is why she can feel this sense of calm in the midst of the struggle, because she can see things as they truly are. Okay. Next question is, what does a divine masculine need to work on? What does a divine masculine need to work on? Let's get... We'll use the Oracle of the Radiant Sun and the Tarot. What does a divine masculine need to work on? What does the divine masculine need to work on, please? Independence. It's the moon in Aquarius. Okay, so that's meaningful to anyone. The number 11 at the top of the card. Rebellion. That's another number 11 at the top of the card, and that is Mars in Aquarius. We get one more of these. And practicality. That's the moon in Virgo, a number 10 card. And let's see what else wants to come here. What does the Divine Masculine need to work on? Four of Pentacles in reverse. Death. There you have it. He needs to make this major transition. He needs to make a major transition in his perspective. Makes sense. We had the Hangman come out for everybody, right? Independence, rebellion, practicality. Four of Pentacles in reverse. Death. Yeah. He needs to let go of the things that are trapping him. Okay. So it can be anything for anybody. It could be, a partner, obviously, that isn't working out. It can be a job. It can be a mindset. It can be bad habits. It can be, addictions. It can be eating bullshit. It can be like obsessively exercising. Like some people just do that. And I think basically with the rebellion card, what I'm feeling is like it's a little like this tower, but it's like a radical turn within oneself in order to create the independence from the life they've been living, or from the lies they've been living. We all live lies at different times in our lives, right? It's part of us trying to figure out who we are. And in an effort to operate in the physical world, the practicality aspect here, I do feel this sense that he may have accepted things in his life or taken them on that he needs to then let go of. He needs to break this. This is often this Four of Pentacles. I often feel this feeling of just really being weighted down by trying so hard to hold on to things that really aren't that much to begin with. It's less than half of the total, right? If we go from 1 pentacle to 10, this is less than half, but he holds tight to them because he doesn't want to lose them. And to see it in reverse is this need to let go of some of these pentacles because they are not for him. It doesn't mean that the people or things or whatever that are, in some cases, they are straight up not good for him. Like if this person has, a severe addiction issue and it's doing him physical harm, or if he's, in an abusive type relationship or a manipulative type relationship or something like that. In other cases, this simply isn't for him. This person, this thing, this event or whatever is meant for something else or someone else. Okay. And it takes... There's a transformation going on inside him to realize that a bird in the hand is not necessarily better than 2 in the bush, right? So I do feel like in some sense that he's breaking out of this pattern that he has gotten into because of the practical nature of it, because of the security and stability nature of it. He is going to have to be brave enough to break out of, or to potentially in his own mind deny the security that he's been trying to acquire all of this time in order to enter into this self-affirming independence. Self-affirming is the word that they want to use. And this requires a lot of courage. Probably more than he's had to muster at any other time in his life. And that is because for some of them, they feel like everything is at stake within whatever this thing is that they're holding on to. Okay. And it might just be their pride, not wanting to be vulnerable to a situation that is beyond their, like at this time, beyond their comprehension, that they just aren't understanding or is like blowing their mind in some way. And it might not be directly related to the divine feminine too. I have to say that because everybody, like, people read these so simplistically, but really the energies are so complex. And that's not to say I'm better than anyone else, but I just like, that's what I want to communicate to you, if I can, is that it's more than just this physical relationship. It is his kind of absorption into the divine, is the weird way they just put it for me. Allowing himself to be absorbed into the numinous, that which is not understood, and releasing that which is concrete and understood, but perhaps is not resonant. Okay? That is a massive transition. And so that's what he needs to work on. He needs to accept this transition. I almost feel like, okay, here's this, obviously the skeleton representing death, but death carries a flag here. Actually, I'm sure it's a scythe, but it looks like a flag to me in this drawing. Damn it, you can hardly see. Okay, yeah, it looks more like a flag to me because it's so huge and kind of like billowing. And so I almost feel like this is a, it's not only, it's almost a clarion call, and it's a march to war on some level. And that's the level of change and quote unquote rebellion that he is launching within himself right now, or needs to, or soon will be, depending on where this person is in their life. And this independence makes me feel that feeling of freedom, which we talked about in the general reading yesterday. Okay, so that's where that's registering for him. It is part of what he needs to bring in and anchor in his life. Freedom. Okay. And rebellion. Freedom. You rebel against slavery. You rebel against oppression. And in some cases, the oppressors are themselves. I'm sure that doesn't shock you to hear me say. Okay, all right, let's move on to the Divine Feminine. What does a Divine Feminine need to work on? So we're back to the Oracle, the Radiant Sun. What does a Divine Feminine need to work on? Control. That is a number 10. That is Jupiter in Virgo. What does the Divine Feminine need to work on? What does the Divine Feminine need to work on, please? Come on. Ostentation. I'm actually getting a weird, like, manipulative type of vibe from these two cards together. Enthusiasm. Okay. Ostentation is Saturn in Taurus. Enthusiasm is the Sun in Sagittarius. And let's get a couple of tarot cards. Oops. Okay. We have the 8 of Pentacles in reverse, the Fool in reverse, the Emperor in reverse, and the Devil in reverse. So 8 of Pentacles and the Fool in reverse. Emperor and Devil in reverse. It's different than the Emperor we pulled yesterday. There are 2 Emperors in this deck for whatever reason. And Control, Ostentation, and Enthusiasm. I'm getting, first of all, the first sense I'm getting is like needing to kind of dial back any like self-righteous type behavior, any kind of like, whether you're outwardly doing it or not, like any kind of feeling better than or feeling ahead of or any of that shit. Because what it really is it's some fucking shackles. It's shackles. It prevents you from rising higher because it keeps you chained to specific views of yourself, which place you in direct opposition to other people, including your twin. Okay, that's what they're just saying. And so it actually prevents you from reaching this kind of unity consciousness, which is what is necessary for this to come together. Also, control and ostentation, those two cards together are giving me the feeling that she, in some way, whether directly to this person or just internally within herself, is can sometimes, this is what you need to work on. Okay, so if you're finding yourself going to the place where you're like, well, I'm not gonna call him back, he's gonna have to call me back, or I'm not gonna reach out again, he's gonna have to, or I'm just moving forward in my own power, blah blah blah, which is a great sentiment if it comes from unconditional love. But if it comes from this sense of control, ostentation, manipulation, right? If you're trying to be like ostentatious behavior, unless I have the definition of that word wrong, which is totally possible, I feel like is sort of like over the top, kind of grandiose, and kind of it's almost stubbornly stubbornly grandiose. I don't know. That's sort of how it's coming to me. And so you've got to let go of all that stuff. All that stuff for me feels rooted in an egoic perception of how things should be, and they just fucking aren't the way that you think they should be. I'm sorry. That is probably true for you and me. Okay. Most of us develop these like patterns because, again, of wounding and cycles and all kinds of things we've been through in our lives. So we develop these sort of ways of seeing things. And that's not to say you're wrong, again, or that it's bad, or that, you know, you're never right, or you don't have anything like, you know, in line. But I'm just saying, if anything is coming out of this energy of trying to control or manipulate another person, or being bullheaded, so bullheaded that you're not going to, what's the other word for bullheaded that also, obstinate. If there's any obstinacy happening, then that needs to stop, because that is blocking your way. Also, this is coming out of, I feel like, a pained place within you that is seeking attention, and you're seeking attention outside of yourself. You're not giving yourself the love, and that's why this is sort of coming out in the way that it is. In fact, I almost specifically feel like this is the father attention. Like if maybe your father wasn't attentive enough, or maybe was very narcissistic and wanted all the attention on himself and was very controlling, something. Okay, so what I'm feeling here is that we need to renew our sense of enthusiasm for the journey and the healing itself. And that to me is about bringing things to a high, it's the sun in Sagittarius. So for me, it feels like bringing things to a higher level of energetic operations. Okay. Rising above this very grounded, sludgy, trudging energy, and moving and taking flight again, moving back into this energy of expansion, of light, of truth. And these other tarot cards here are basically, to me, saying that, like, it's essentially this need to let go of this power, that is what is actually holding you back and preventing you from getting this new start. If you feel that you have been prevented from getting the new start, this is probably the energy you have been in, okay? Obviously, these readings can't cover every single person, and so maybe this is not resonating with you. I'm really feeling that the key here is releasing this painful chain to the father's energy of either not giving unconditional love, not giving attention, or demanding the attention be put on him. And so that is your direct connection then to the divine masculine. Those are the eyes you see him through. And so whatever, if there was any kind of manipulative tie with the father, especially emotional manipulation, that's what needs to be dissolved in order for there to be a more healthy path forward. Until then, you're kind of in suspended animation. You're kind of stuck here, okay? The Fool in reverse. Okay. I was like, let me just get a card here, a oracle card. And this is from the Archangel Michael deck. It says, romance angels are helping you. Dear guardian angels of my soulmate, thank you for preparing my soulmate and me for love, for giving us the motivation to make healthful life changes, and for arranging for us to meet. Thank you for helping us recognize each other and have the courage to say hello so that we can eventually delve into a truly intimate relationship. So I feel like the delving into a truly intimate relationship is kind of the next step here. That is where you're going. But he needs to release things on the physical plane. She needs to release things on the emotional and mental plane. I mean, it could be that can be different, vice versa, or whatever, for each individual person. But primarily, that's what I'm getting out of this reading. So I will continue with the extended reading. The link to that is below, and also the questions that we answer in that reading, so that you can decide if you want to join us there over on Vimeo. And regardless, here is my website one more time before we close up. Thank you guys so much for your likes and subscribes and shares and comments. I have a really great group of individuals who comment. I don't think I've gotten like an asshole comment in a very long time. So I appreciate all of you, and all of your support, and just generally being awesome people. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.